Hello everybody, welcome to Elite Weather. My name is Mr. G, your meteorologist. Hope you guys had a good day today. It is your Friday evening and we are getting ready for the weekend. And let's talk about that weather forecast. I'm going to let you know what to expect in your neck of the woods and as well as across America as we talk about thunderstorms. Is the order of the day, especially if you live here in the Minnesota area or Wisconsin or in the Great Lakes. You're going to be dealing with thunderstorms today. And I'm going to start the video off with some pictures that I took from the back of a Lyft on my way home from work today, as we had some big time thunderstorms roll through town this afternoon about the just after midday, about the 1 or 2 o'clock hour. We started to see those really big thunderstorms. When I noticed those alto cumulus clouds in the sky early this morning on my way to work, I just knew we were going to have an interesting afternoon with those severe thunderstorms. So let's jump into my pictures that I took here with my feeble attempts at photography. And what we're looking at here is this is over I-94, and look at that beautiful bridge. I don't know the name of that bridge, but it's over the Mississippi River. No, that's not the Mississippi River. This is the Minnesota River. And we were crossing the Minnesota River right there. And it is very beautiful. Look at those thunderstorms. And what we're looking at here, you're looking at the anvil on the top of that thunderstorm. Now we have this big thunderstorm. Now it's moving away from us, headed to the south and east, and that is the anvil from that thunderstorm. So that is really awesome. You can kind of see some convection in those clouds right there where this white is, where it's a little bit lighter. You can see the convection, and you can kind of see overhang from the anvil. It's a little bit darker, so it's kind of blocking out the sun right in this region right here. You kind of see the storm structure of this thunderstorm here, of these clouds billowing up. So we have an inflow area here where we have some convection. So that's really beautiful. Here's another picture. We're looking at it from a little bit different angle. But if you look at this region right here, you can definitely see those clouds billowing up, some of those puffy clouds, those cumulonimbus clouds that are building in here from the south. This is inflow into our thunderstorm as this storm moves off to the south and east. Very beautiful. And if you look at these low-level clouds, you see these little clouds right here, down these little white clouds. That's called scud, and what causes that is moisture and rainfall from our clouds from the storm is evaporating and recondensing underneath the storm because it's still cold enough for clouds to form and condense. So we have these clouds right here, these new clouds that are forming. Now these aren't going to become new thunderstorms, but those do occur a lot of times under thunderstorms. So we see those clouds developing right there. So that is pretty cool. Now here's another angle. You can see the anvil top of the cloud, that high cirrus clouds. That's the anvil top. Thunderstorms build up, and it can only go up so high, and they hit the top of the troposphere. We're near what's called the tropopause. It's the border between the stratosphere and the troposphere where the weather happens. That's where that is. That's up of about 60,000 feet. So you definitely see the high cloud tops. We saw those winds today, those damaging winds. We had 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts this afternoon, and the winds were so strong, the trees in front of my office, I thought they were going to get ripped out of the ground. We have some young trees out front, and they were just bent all the way over to the ground. You see those straight line winds blowing down from these supercell thunderstorms. So that's very amazing. Here we have another cell off to the south there. We have another big thunderstorms developing there. So a very active afternoon with thunderstorms here across the Twin Cities. I was pretty excited to observe that and to be able to be outside at the right time of the day. I love this angle of the thunderstorms when the sun is behind me and the storm is headed off in the distance. It's actually a great time to take photos of some of these beautiful thunderstorms out there. So let's talk about the weather forecast there. Here are the thunderstorms that we saw. I'm going to pick a good side to stand on right here. All right, so here are those thunderstorms right now that are moving across the Twin Cities and over the border into Wisconsin. That's the thunderstorms that I took the photos of, those storms right there that are currently racing over the border into Wisconsin. And we have thunderstorms that's crossing over Lake Erie out of Michigan. Detroit is right there. Cleveland is right there. There's Buffalo, and Pittsburgh is right there. So if you're in the Pittsburgh area and Cleveland, I would keep an eye to the sky from the west, because you will be seeing those showers and storms moving in. And we do have a severe thunderstorm warning right now here near the city of Pittsburgh. And down to the south, we got a few severe thunderstorm warnings in place over parts of West Virginia and into Kentucky as well. So we're seeing those into Virginia and West Virginia. We're seeing some strong thunderstorms moving across that area right now. And here is our active severe watches right now. We have a severe thunderstorm watch over eastern Minnesota, which includes the Twin Cities, western Wisconsin, which includes the cities of Eau Claire and La Crosse, and across northern Iowa, which includes Des Moines and Waterloo. We're seeing a severe thunderstorm watch in place, and we have a severe thunderstorm watch down here through the Shenandoah area. So we have Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and maybe part of Kentucky as well, where we're looking at the severe thunderstorm watch in place. That's our active severe thunderstorm watch. Here is our severe storm threat this afternoon, and that primary threat for the remainder of this evening is going to be a bit south there across the state of Iowa, southern Wisconsin, and northern Illinois into Indiana and Ohio and southern Michigan. So Detroit, Cleveland, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Indianapolis, Chicago, Peoria, Des Moines, Waterloo, Milwaukee, Madison. We guys going to be looking at the very likelihood of seeing some of those severe thunderstorms. We're seeing them race across the border from southern Minnesota and into central Wisconsin, and we're also seeing those storms down in the Shenandoah area. And we have developing thunderstorms near the Detroit that's going to be affecting the Cleveland and Pittsburgh and eventually the Buffalo area. So we're going to be looking at those severe thunderstorms. And our primary threats today is going to be those damaging winds, some large hail, and excessive rainfall amounts that can lead to some flash flooding. Some isolated tornadoes is also going to be possible with some of these severe thunderstorms as well, especially more further around the Chicago area and northern Indiana and southwestern Michigan is where we have a greater likelihood to see some tornado activity with some of these thunderstorms that we're dealing with this afternoon and evening, okay? And here is a look at that damaging wind threat. And you see that likelihood of damaging winds over here across southern Michigan. We also have Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, as well as a good portion of the state of Iowa. So Des Moines all the way over to Chicago, we have a very likely scenario where we could see a significant potential for some damaging winds, and that's winds in excess of 60 miles an hour with some of these severe thunderstorms this afternoon and into the evening hours. Here is our rainfall that we're expecting still to come, where we can pick up about 1 to 2 inches for the most part on the higher end of some of these rainfall totals with some of these thunderstorms. So we're going to be looking for some urban and small stream flooding and maybe some light flash flooding as well. So we're going to be watching some river flooding as a potential to parts of southern Wisconsin and through Michigan. It's going to be a good possibility of that. And northern Illinois, we could see some flash flooding from heavy rainfall and thunderstorms. Now let's talk about our severe thunderstorm threat for tomorrow. Now we're going to still see those storms tomorrow, and they're going to be sliding into the northeast and the mid-Atlantic states. So the states of Virginia, West Virginia, and to Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Rhode Island, southeastern Massachusetts, as well as the parts of upstate, extreme eastern New York here into where Long Island is. We're going to be seeing the potential there for some a likelihood of severe weather, but we can see the possibility of severe thunderstorms all the way back into eastern Missouri near St. Louis. We could deal with some severe thunderstorms as we move through the afternoon and evening tomorrow. And again, those primary threat is going to be for isolated tornadoes, some large hail, damaging winds that could exceed 75 miles an hour, and heavy rain and flash flooding could be a problem as well with some of these severe thunderstorms. So remember to monitor the weather in your area, and let's help track some of these thunderstorms so that we can save lives and minimize property damage out there. Okay, guys? Now let's talk about the heat. The one thing that this heat does is fuel these thunderstorms. So the heat and these thunderstorms go hand in hand. They're bosom buddies. You can't have one without the other. It's like love and marriage, all right? So let's talk about the excessive heat that we're seeing across the Midwest. So Kansas, Nebraska, northern Missouri, the southern half, and the southwestern end of Iowa and central Illinois, we are looking at our excessive heat warning, where we have those temperatures near 95, 99 degrees. But that heat advisory, the heat indexes, because of the humidity in the air, we're seeing those temperatures approach 110 as far as the heat indexes. So we have excessive heat warnings in place. But elsewhere across the Midwest and through the Deep South, we're seeing a heat advisory, and we're seeing heat advisories into the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. But if you check out right here along the Mid-Atlantic states, so Norfolk, D.C., up to New York, and even Boston, we have excessive heat in place where we have humidity coming off of the Atlantic. So the Gulf Stream and the Bermuda High is contributing some of that heat and humidity that's leading to excessive heat warnings across those regions. Now let's take a look at our heat as that heat shifts a bit further to the south, and we're going to be seeing those temperatures hit that 106 in Dallas, 107 in New Orleans. These are heat indexes, and we're going to be seeing temperatures 107 in Memphis. So heat indexes in the triple digits down across the Deep South and the lower Mississippi River Valley and into the southeast, as that heat index gets close to 100 down there in Raleigh-Durham. But Phoenix, we're going to see heat of 111 degrees, which is actually a little bit cooler than it's been because of those the threat of those monsoon thunderstorms. But we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Now let's talk about what's going on with Florida. Now Florida is a tale of two stories here, because if you're in eastern Florida, you've seen tremendous amounts of rainfall and flooding, where we have the Bermuda High that's pumping in that moisture off of the Atlantic, and it's been producing a lot of rain. But meanwhile, if you're in western Florida, Tampa, Sarasota, Naples, Fort Myers, we've had a lack of rainfall. It's been one of the driest summers on record over the western side, the Gulf of Mexico side of Florida. And on the Atlantic side, we've seen a lot of rain coming in off of the tropics. So two stories going on across the state of Florida right now. And here we are as we talk about through the 9 o'clock. Is this right? I guess it's upcoming next Wednesday, I assume. But we're going to be seeing that rainfall continue for the next 7 days here across the south, across Florida, and that is due to a tropical wave that's hanging out down there across the state. Over here off in the Atlantic, there's a tropical wave that's producing consistent rainfall across the state of Florida, where we could locally pick up 6+ inches of rain that we've seen over the past 7 days here, and we're going to continue to see that rainfall over the next several days. Now we have the monsoons to talk about across the desert Southwest, and we have our continental blocking high that's centered over the Four Corner states in North Texas, and that is that clockwise flow around that high pressure is pulling in that tropical moisture off the Gulf of Mexico, pulling it across northern Mexico and Texas, and it's moving up into New Mexico and Arizona, and it's feeding into the Rockies. That circulation around that high pressure, and those areas are under the periphery, meaning they're along the edges of that heat dome there that's centered over the four corners and the high plains. And that is allowing for that moisture to come in off of the Pacific and the Gulf of Mexico, and it's producing showers and thunderstorms down here across the desert Southwest. So Phoenix, Tucson, Las Vegas, and even into the Rockies there. So if you're in Salt Lake City or Denver, you also are susceptible to some of these random afternoon thunderstorms. And if you're in the national parks, Zion, Bryce Canyon, you're going to be also dealing with the potential for those storms, which is including the Grand Canyon as well. You can see flash flooding is a real issue in the national parks across the Southwest and the Western United States from those thunderstorms high up in the mountains. You may not see rain down in the lower valleys, but rain up in the higher elevations can rush down the mountainside, and that causes the most devastating flash flooding and to the loss of life in our nation's national parks. So be careful if you're hiking or doing any activities in the national park and there are thunderstorms in the forecast. I would advise doing it at a different day or a different time of the day when the thunderstorms aren't occurring. Now here's a look at the rainfall potential that we're going to be seeing through midweek next week, through the upcoming week, and we're going to see those thunderstorms across the western United States, those monsoon thunderstorms. And people say, well, that's not India. They have monsoons in India. What makes a monsoon is not where it is. The reason why we call it a monsoon is how it occurs. And it usually is around a high pressure pulls the moisture off of a nearby ocean or whatever, and it circulates around that area of high pressure, around the periphery, and that is called a monsoon. That is a monsoon flow because that moisture is being transported or advected from somewhere else. We call that warm air advection or moisture advection, and that's what monsoons are. So a little bit of meteorology 101 for you guys. So this is why we call it a monsoon, because it's moisture that's being the moisture is not native to this area, so it's transported from someplace else to this region, and that's what makes it a monsoon. This is just kind of the nickname that it's given. All right, so we're going to be seeing those temperatures come a little bit lower as we head through the weekend and into Monday because of the increase in moisture. Now we have going to be lower temperatures because of the increase in cloud cover from the development of thunderstorms. So we're going to see those temperatures like in Phoenix go from 116 on Saturday to 109 on Sunday. Like big deal, it's still 109 degrees, but it's still a few degrees cooler. And it's going to be a little bit more uncomfortable actually because of the moisture in the air. So that's going to make a bit of a heat index for you across the Southwest that you're not typically used to, but because of the increased humidity, we're going to be seeing a heat index across the Southwest. So even though the air temperature might only be 109 degrees, it can still feel like 115, 116 because of the heat index. And here we are as we talk about heat index for you across the Northeast. And we're going to see those heat indexes up in the 100 degree plus range across the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, into the Northeast as well, as we have that very hot weather. Again, we're going to see that heat continue and expand across the East. And here we are as we see for Saturday, we're going to have a cold front sweep through the Northeast and New England. That's going to drop down into the Mid-Atlantic states a little bit, and that's going to bring those temperatures up if you're south of that front, but going to bring those temperatures down if you're behind that front. So those temperatures on the backside of that front and low is going to be in the low to mid 80s, but if you're to the south, you're looking at the mid to upper 90s. So again, it's going to be hot because our front is going to stall as it moves into New England, and we have a warm front lifting to the north and northeast. But our cold front, unfortunately, is not going to drop too much further south as it shifts off to the east. It's going to kind of move on off to the north and east, and our front is going to kind of run parallel to this region right in here. So if you're in the Mid-Atlantic states, don't hold your breath too much for any relief. But if you're in the Northeast, you're going to get a brief respite from the heat and humidity, and we're going to see a northwesterly flow kick in, which could also bring the problem of bringing the smoke from Canada. So that could become an issue next week, and we'll talk about that as we get closer to that time. So we got tropical stuff to talk about today before we wrap this up, and we do have our tropical wave out here across a part of the southeast, just off the coast, and that is responsible for all that rain that we're seeing along the Atlantic coast of Florida and southern Georgia and South Carolina. And then we have our tropical wave that's out here over the Azores, and that's going to be heading up towards Bermuda over the next several days, and that has a medium chance of development, a medium to high chance of development. So we could see a tropical depression form in this system over the next 4 or 5 days or so. And then we have our water temperatures. The water temperatures off of the coast of Florida and in the western Caribbean is ridiculous. This is water temperatures over 90 degrees. So water is warm. It feels like a hot tub if you're in the Caribbean, the Western Caribbean, South of Caribbean, Cuba, Jamaica. This is Dominican Republic, Haiti. There's Florida. There's the Bahamas. The water temperatures are over 90 degrees. So that is prime fuel for tropical development. The saving grace has been, we've been getting dust from Africa, from the Sahara. Dust has been blowing across the Atlantic, so that has helped to diminish some of the tropical activity. And we've been seeing, we have a very large scope of the Bermuda high, and that could kind of counteract the effect of some of that dust. So we look for some tropical development closer to the eastern and western Caribbean and the southeastern U.S. off the coast of Florida and the Bahamas. So we're going to watch those areas closely as we have a lot of competing things. The one thing that is kind of not helpful if you don't want tropical development is that we don't have a front down across the southern U.S. There's no front right now coming off the southeastern coast. So it's not there to create wind shear. Tropical systems don't like wind shear, and cold fronts tend to create a lot of wind shear, where domes of high pressure create a lot of calm weather, and tropical systems like their environment to be calm and steady. So we're dealing with that. So that could make the tropics become rather interesting over the next couple of days. And we're also trying to counteract the effects of El Nino, our super El Nino that's developing down off the west coast of Peru and Ecuador Ecuador and Peru. We are dealing with a strong El Nino, a super El Nino. This could be one of the biggest El Ninos ever, so we're going to keep a watch on that as well, because that is definitely going to wreak havoc with our weather this winter across the U.S. So that is your weather forecast. I'm your boy, Mr. G, keeping it real for you as far as the weather is concerned. Thank you for watching me. I would appreciate. Hey, check it out. I have 499 subscribers on YouTube. I just need one of you people to do one more to get me to that 500. I've been doing this for over a year and I only got 500. What's the matter with mine? I don't know what's going on. If I was a cute girl, I'd have 1 million subscribers. Women do very well in social media. I'm sorry. I don't know. I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels. So help a brother out. Let's get that out there. Hey, I'm trying to hook y'all up. So, all right, I will see y'all tomorrow. Maybe I got a lot of stuff to do tomorrow, but maybe we'll get a video for you. So, peace.